Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another Stories Around Azeroth. I am Pete, Titan's Creed Nethercoat, joined by the most lovable gnome this side of the Eastern Plaguelands. One, Mr. Frazley. How are you doing, Mr. Frazley?
I am doing great. I got in a nap before the show, so I was like watching Netflix, and all of a sudden I'm like, oh crap, it's time to do a podcast.
Oh no, that thing.
Yes, I got to sit down with my favorite person. Well, I can't pick favorites because
You have many favorites already.
But I have really gotten to love and I'm so excited that I get to know you each week. So I just can never say favorites because I don't want anybody to feel bad. But you are a cool person. You've taught me so much. And I mean, which one was it? It was somebody that said that they learned about a storyline tidbit from what you were saying. So somebody was like,
I believe it was a friend of yours that you met recently. Turned around and was like, didn't think of the Sylvanas wanting to take her own life as a thing that could happen. So
yeah, so that's one reason I really enjoyed you being able to pull these together, because then I learned from you. I was listening to Morally Grey podcast today, and I was like, you know what? I'm really like Fear, and you're like Jen. You're teaching me things. I'm like, oh, what does that mean? And you're like, yeah. I was like, oh yeah, absolutely.
It's a thing that happens. Lore is a wonderful, wonderful thing in this game called World of Warcraft, and we will be talking about a little bit of it today as we talk about the level 60 Heart of Azeroth questline, because I did it this week.
Nice.
It's one of the one things that I did this week.
So
expands a lot on what I've talked about in the last couple of weeks, it seems, as well. And I made a big old thread on Twitter about it and had a little talk, and some people were interested in bits and pieces.
So you're next swole now, and you've been keeping up on neck day.
That's it, neck day. Next big thing is not till level 70, and that's going to be a couple of weeks away, I think.
So this necklace with all this power, if we were wearing these, would it really make us like hurt our backs with all that power that's imbued into it?
We all just have one gold chain, and we're like mini Mr. T, just walking around with one big bit of bling around our neck.
I pitied the fool.
I pity the fool who don't get no Azerite farm done.
And I've been doing a lot thanks to you, so you've been encouraged me to really work on that neck.
Well, tell us, what have you done since we last spoke, Mr. Frazley? What have you done in Azeroth in the last week?
So my neck is now up to level 52, so I've got a large neck now, and I now have flying!
Hey, well done. How does it feel?
Oh, it feels so great. Like, I knew I was always waiting for it, and like the whole time in BFA, I'm like, this is gonna be great when I can fly. I can finally go through here. Like, I went over to that cliff that has taken me and many of my alts, and I started laughing at that cliff, being like, "Ha, you can no longer take me," until the next expansion where another cliff will take me. But it's so, and like these vistas, they're so gorgeous. You're flying over, like. They really took time to think what will it be like when people are flying over it too, not just what will it be like when they're riding through it.
Well, I mean, this is what they did back in Wrath and Cataclysm. They designed the zones with flying in mind, so I don't know why they just don't do that anymore. I mean, yeah, even Myths to a certain point was designed with flying in mind, with certain stuff you couldn't access till max level.
So one thing I would say, I do like how Final Fantasy XIV does their flying unlock better than WoW, and I've always liked
it is true. They do it better, but I was thinking about that in comparison to how WoW is. The reason they're able to pull it off in Final Fantasy is because each area is instanced to its own thing, rather than one big open map. So that's why Final Fantasy can get away with it, because you have to zone in and zone out to each instance area.
I forgot about that. You're right, and we take that for granted. I mean, like, we take for granted how easily things meld, and on like that melding, they did an even better job with BFA. Legion was good, but there was a clear point where you moved from zone to zone. In BFA, that's even less so. It's so seamless. Like the sky.
You don't play with war mode on, do you?
No,
No, it's not so seamless with war mode on, my dude.
Okay, so see, everybody
Especially,
needs to.
especially in Nazjatar. Nazjatar with war mode is not a pleasant place to be, especially
See,
when the Battle of Nazjatar is happening.
so then you know what? That just give peace a chance.
No, not when there's 30% extra rewards I can get for having war mode on.
That's true.
Plus, I'm a demon hunter, so one-on-one, I just take anybody in a fight. So
I mean, and maybe I'm kind of warming up to my horde allies because I was also on my horde recently, and
yes, you finished something today, didn't you?
yes, I finished the every sides of every tail. No, two sides of every tail.
tail.
Yes, and what was cool is it really showed like I remember doing the stuff on the alliance side and thinking like what's going to happen to them. It was cool on the horde side seeing their perspective of it. I mean, it really was a multi-perspective storyline, and you get to see the effect that they caught. Like, I feel like there was a Frazley out there who was doing what I was doing. I mean, it really was like I was in the same timeline as my alliance.
I mean, you now see what I was talking about, where it's like you can see yourself in each part of the story in terms of the timeline of where it all happens. It all kind of comes together a little bit more.
And it was like the Illidan quest line for Black Temple, where you're in Black Temple and you see your character raiding the Black Temple. I mean, I didn't raid that as current content, but I did it for time walking. So I could see myself, and I think my character wanted the war glaives.
Brilliant stuff. So you can fly. You've done your war campaign on both factions now. Have you done the Bane storyline as Horde yet? I haven't yet. So
the one where you go, is that the one where you go
the one where you go free Bane?
Yes. Have I done that one? Because I've seen it. I've seen it on my head. I'm trying to remember. Is that part of?
It's the very last thing you do after going to Nazjatar and Mechagon.
Okay, then no, because I have not done that. I went into Nazjatar on accident. I stumbled into Nazjatar, but I've not done it anymore on the Horde side. So I should go do that to see.
I'm about the same thing. I'm trying to do it with my Demon Hunter because I enjoy playing the Demon Hunter on Alliance, and I think it's just may as well enjoy it on Horde as well. So that's it.
I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to do an Iron next because I'm like, now they get flying.
Yeah.
I want to kill off another character. I mean, I want to try to get a character up level.
Yeah, no, it's. I think I'm in that place where I want to start leveling stuff as well. I was hoping to have Queen Hajara down on heroic today, but unfortunately we just kept getting stuck on phase 4. But people who did get stuck on phase 4 were Method, who actually, like earlier on today as we record this live, actually got the world first Queen Hajara kill. They've had a tremendous 24 hours on the fight. They got to like I believe it was 5.9% about this time last night, and then they just went into it. They did a few they went later than they would normally do to try and push it, see if they could get it, but then they just took the night off, came back at it with a clear head, and then had some stonking pulls out the gate, including a 0.9% pull, and then I think a couple of hours later they just took it down. They just had like one of those really good god pulls, and that was it.
And the Scruffy Druid retweeted a cool video clip of the moment from the perspective of them as players when they did that poll, and just the excitement, the relief. I was like, that is that moment that everyone's cheering for, and I was so glad to see that.
I completely understand the how they feel to a certain aspect. While it's not a world first level, the only fight that's really given me as much hassle when I was raid leading was a heroic Garrosh 25 when it was current content. That fight with the special hidden extra thing on heroic, or mythic as it is now, because heroic 25 was the heroic version was more difficult at the time. Was a hell of a lot of fun, and that definitely got me cheering about it. There's actually that video still up on my YouTube from way back when as well.
And one thing that I have not seen a lot of press on but Alessandra's been bringing it up, and I want people to know a cool thing that Method's doing. They are donating, and I think that the last total is over 60.
65,000 was the last thing I saw.
Yeah, and they're donating that to charity, and I think that is something that I don't see a lot of people talking about, and I'm going to raise it up on the next Frazlecast because I want people to know that
every time they've done a Race to World First stream, there's always been a Save the Children charity donation goal. I believe during Crucible of Storms they hit, I want to say 10k over the course they were doing it, and this has just been so monumental. Like, they aimed for 20 and then they got all the way up to 65, and they might even get it more as they do all the post shows and everything else. But 65 grand is a lot of money, and they did really well for that.
Yeah, that's one thing I've been amazed with covering gaming is how generous gamers are. Just that gamers want to help people, and they're so generous in different things. Like if someone needs something medically or as charity, people will open up their hearts, and that's something that goes against the narrative that gamers are not caring.
Yeah, no, absolutely, makes complete sense. But it was fun. Did you manage to catch any of the Race to World First yourself?
Bits and pieces. So like I had both streams up and I was watching at certain points. The only reason I didn't watch more is I don't understand all the mechanics, so it's not as interesting if I don't understand it. But I wanted to at least...
you're not a big raid person, are you? You're someone that plays the game and enjoys the game.
Yeah, and it's kind of like with ballroom dancing. I don't like watching ballroom dancing, but I like doing it. So if I was raiding and doing it, it'd be more fun than seeing somebody play it. Yeah. I celebrate them doing it, and I celebrate what they did. It's not something that I want. Instead, I'd rather sit down and watch somebody on YouTube. Not Let's Plays, but I'd like to watch like a YouTube video or Netflix or something like that. And there's some good stuff on Netflix I've been watching recently, but that's the whole different show.
Try to fit it in there with all those podcasts you listen to as well, I guess.
Absolutely, and I finished up 2 right today on my walk. So,
well, I mean, this is the thing. Like, I need to go out and listen to more podcasts as well. And speaking of which, Realm Maintenance has now featured us on their page as well for podcasts that happen on a weekly thing. So, and Realm Maintenance does have a big showing of a lot of the other Warcraft and Blizzard Universe podcasts. So it's always worth going and checking that out if you're after a Blizzard type podcast to do.
Yeah, what's amazing about the Blizzard community? There's so many varied podcasts. So, and so many things you can listen to, and I love it. Everyone's excited about WoW, and they have their own perspective that they like, something that they really focus on, and that's the beauty of it. And you know, hey, listener out there, if there's something that no podcast is covering, but you want to cover it, send me a message, and I will walk you through what I know, and we can help you start a podcast.
If you, it's a good thing about this podcast as well is I personally have always wanted to do something Blizzard orientated, other than just kill videos that I've done while doing the bits and pieces or just streaming the game. And as you're well aware, since we're on episode 11, I can talk about anything as long as I'm investing. But you also can do that as well if you're vastly interested in talking about something or want to talk about something. You get on with it. Do it.
Yeah, and don't be afraid, because you know the first 10 are strange. I mean, I'm biased. I think we've done an amazing job for the first 10.
I don't think it's been too bad. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I've been impressed with the quality. So you've hit it out of the park for the first 10, and now we've taken it to 11.
That's it.
Final top reference.
We took it to 11, indeed, and many more. One can
yes,
but,
absolutely.
Absolutely. It's interesting to see where the Race to World First is going to go next. There was a small interview which turned around and said that Method are now going to be looking towards Classic, which is going to be out in a month. So whether they'll do a Race to World First 60 or they'll do Race to World First MC, Blackwing Lair, everything else and bits and pieces, we'll have to see. Especially as the biggest grind in Classic is going to be the 40 to 60 grind anyway, and then gearing up for Molten Core. It's going to be interesting because it's one of the things where all the tactics are already known for the bosses, and the gear is based on a later patch than when Molten Core and that was available. So they'll have better stat weighted gear going into Molten Core, and they'll probably like destroy the bosses. Because classic bosses, I don't have a lot to it, and
Yeah.
DBM is already really built for everything already. Although saying that, I remember the anniversary where they did where they brought back Molten Core, scaled it upwards for 40 people, and people who'd never done Molten Core back in Classic went in there and was like, it'll be easy, we'll just trump it. Nope, those heavy health bosses with those old mechanics still screw you over. I think you can still massively just out damage it and just skip everything, but I think it was the first Fire Naga type boss after Barongeddon that throws everybody off, because you've got to share and split the magic debuffs and everything else. But man, yeah, that was horrible stuff. So it'll be interesting to see what happens when Classic comes out, because it'll be a different beast. I'll probably watch it, but I'm definitely not interested in playing Classic. I've been there, I was there, and I leveled through it originally. That grind I'm not looking forward to doing again. I've got enough to do in retail. But
Yeah.
Big thumbs up to those people really interested in Classic WoW. We'll definitely try and cover some of the big stories that come out for the game and everything else. But, nothing about playing the game. Maybe dipping every now and again, but there's so much to do in retail, unless I really need to take a break from that. I think you're looking at going in and having to play around with it. Probably touch it like you do with the irons and everything else, I guess.
Absolutely, and can I stream what I'm doing? Because in that way, I can learn from what people, when they're watching me maybe do the irons, will teach me things, and I like people seeing the good and the bad moments. So for me, it'll be an experiment to see like how long does it take me. I mean, there'll be times I'm gonna get frustrated because already even on working on Tide of Vengeance, I went to Wowhead for a few things. Like I couldn't remember where this one NPC was, and there was no quest marker, so I went to Wowhead. And no promises that I won't do that for Classic.
It's fine. There'll be loads of add-ons to help you out with that as well. There are already a lot's done, inbuilt quest markers and everything else. There's nothing to say that you have to play Classic as it was intended. I don't think anybody's going to say that. And I think if you want to enjoy the game as you need to, then playing it with mods and everything else to make your life easier should be the way to go.
I think what people are excited for, and I get this, is that the game's at its default does not cater to the player, and then you can make it cater to you by your own decision. So it's an opt-in versus instantly having the game be like, okay, here's where to go, or everywhere to do. Because they did not know. I kind of think that they didn't know about user experience as much when they first launched WoW.
No, I would vastly disagree with that. Jumping from Final Fantasy XI into WoW, the user experience was definitely more friendly. And definitely more casual focused. It's just that if you take the tools of Classic against the tools of what exists today, it's definitely not casual friendly at all.
That makes sense. Slightest.
It does. Classic WoW will not respect your free time that you put into it.
Here's an idea then, because my dad remarked about this about English. You know how like peasants could understand Shakespeare, and we have to have an English major to understand Shakespeare.
So that's because Shakespeare was written for the common man. Shakespeare was written for those people who didn't have the atypical upbringing for people, and it was there to meant to entertain. Well, it's there to entertain everybody, but it was definitely that was why you had the base mod plane that anybody could watch. So it was literally there for everybody. But
and then over time, English changed. So there have been people asking, like, have we dumbed down the society? So would you say for gaming, have we dumbed down in our gaming, or we've changed?
I don't think it's necessarily dumbing down. This probably isn't the podcast for it, I'll be honest. But I would like to say it's more because we evolved as a species more than anything else.
Okay.
And we no longer need an archaic structure that exists in the form of Shakespeare anymore. Shakespearean word is such an outdated concept unless you really want to study drama and everything else like that. The fact that it exists in form for English majors, I assume, over there, or your GCSE English for us and everything else. It shouldn't exist as baseline English because it's not needed in today's modern English. If you're doing drama, I absolutely agree that you have to understand Shakespearean to a point, because there's a lot of Shakespearean stuff that's brought forward. There's not a lot of Shakespearean stuff that exists in the modern English age. It's an outdated thing. I'm not salty at all that Shakespeare was the thing that made me fail my GCSE English at all.
Yeah. Not at all.
Nope. But yeah, I can see where you're going, but I don't know. I think from all of the not a bug stuff and everything that's been brought forward, definitely shows that people remember vanilla differently from what it was, and when they've had a chance to test it out on Classic, it's definitely not what people remember it to be. So it'll be interesting to see people's reactions once they get past the level 40 bracket and they see what the 40 to 60 to do. I think someone remarked that it was a clever idea on Blizzard's part to do the cap to 40, because 1 to 40 is essentially the easiest part of the grind. It's 40 to 60 where the XP ramps up ridiculously, and where the real grind begins. So,
and like running out of quests like 56, 58, yeah.
And just having to grind mobs just to get those last couple of levels. Or dungeons. It'll be interesting to see how people tackle Stratholme and Sholomance and try to do the 45 minute quest. I want to say, yeah. It'll be interesting.
Yeah.
I'm definitely looking forward to people doing their Warlock and their Paladin mount quests. That was a lot of fun back in the day. I remember doing that.
Yeah.
Doing the Onyxia attunement quest line. There's a lot of fun stuff to be had, but a lot of it is very rage-worthy because the game doesn't tell you where you need to go. That's the thing.
Yeah. And it is interesting, like the race for World of First, if Method were to do it, we have the strats from that. I mean, some of it's private server strats, but we have the strats, and we have people's memories of these things.
So this is the thing, like, agreeing with you on that as well. There are a lot of... So back in vanilla, there were only certain classes that were viable in bits and pieces. Private servers, people got the chance to do a lot more math because it was just a static line, and they could turn around and go, well, if you do this or this, but you had to be careful because it wasn't a one-to-one exact replica, it was just like a cached version essentially. Then some numbers could be changed and different in places and bits and pieces, but there is nothing to turn around and say that the people with the outlook of it are right. There are people that want to play Retribution Paladins now. Retribution Paladins were garbage back in vanilla, you know. People want to play Guardian Druid. Guardian Druid was garbage. The only reason you play a Druid is to play Restoration. But people want to play all the different specs and bits and pieces. Now, will people get pigeonholed into playing specific specs? Will all the Paladins have to go Holy? Will all the Warriors have to tank? Will all the Druids have to heal? You know, it's going to be definitely interesting. We're just going to have a swarm of two-handed enhancement shaman. That's the dream, isn't it?
Yeah.
I don't know. Classic is going to be a very interesting beast. Whether it changes on a landscape, we'll see with the numbers that come out and everything else. I think it'll be more fun as an onlooker project rather than someone playing it. So, who knows? It'll be interesting. Definitely interesting to say the least. But I want to go from the beginning of the game to what the future might hold, because there's been even more leaks or rumours or speculation that's come out this week. And oh my goodness, has there been a lot. So previously we've talked about an AMA leak that came out from a graphics designer that works for Blizzard over on 4chan. There's been a lot of stuff that talks about Age of Darkness, which is the Old God expansion and everything else. The newest one, which came out recently, which a lot of the community is turning around and saying is the more plausible leak out of all of them that have come out so far, is the Shadowlands one. Now, the reason why people think it's more plausible is because it's used the basic map that Blizzard turn around and throw out at people at BlizzCons and everything else, like just the splotches with marks on the map and everything else, and it's got a specific logo. And there's a couple of things to say, but the biggest thing that people have pointed out, like for one of them, is like Blizzard normally use their store mounts as hints of what comes next. So the latest store mount that we had was the Sylvarian Dreamer. Now, on this image of the map that's come out, over in what's called the Dark Front, in the top of the map, there's something called the Sylvarian Sylvarian Approach. So, there's a lot of people that are turning around and going, but then this could be a lot of things. Dragon Isles, again, comes up in everything that we've seen in the leaks. Tinker comes up in everything we've seen from the leaks as well. Shadowlands is, it's been one of the ideas that we're talking about going. I mean, as we get closer and closer to BlizzCon, we're really going to be entering like leak territory. So it's best to take anything you can see with a massive pinch of salt until we get to BlizzCon. Because I fully imagine this year's BlizzCon is going to be huge with Warcraft, with Overwatch, with Diablo announcements, and then there'll be Hearthstone hero stuff as well. But there's going to be a lot of information coming out, so I don't know if you had a chance to read through these or anything else, but
no, I did not realize that this Shadowlands one was the latest one. Shadowlands tracks along with what we're hearing. I mean, it definitely does. The Black Empire, because I was listening to again morally great podcast, and they talk about the Shadowlands and the Emerald Dream. Like we've been to the Emerald Dream, or at least the Emerald Nightmare. We've been there. Druids have been to the Emerald Dream, haven't they? Like in their class hall.
Yes.
And it only makes sense that you would go to the Shadowlands, and this one. I mean, because there's something's brewing, and something's happening, and this map shows Nyalotha, and that tracks along too. Definitely with what we're thinking, because like N'Zoth has been released. I mean, he is out there, and it's now time to try to go after him.
It really depends on where we go for the end of the expansion. If we go as we talked about last week when we had Jin from Morally Grey on, and we were just talking about where we'd like to see where 8.3 goes and what we think might be the way it goes. I think either way, we're fighting Sylvanas at this point.
I'm going off with this map. If this map were true, it is interesting that it seems very much like a shared experience again. It doesn't seem like BFA was two different continents. This seems like one continent for everybody.
So there's two continents that are apparently rumored with the Shadowlands one, which is the Shadowlands and the Dragon Isles.
Okay.
So what that means, I don't know. I don't think that it's going to be one purely Alliance, one Horde based. I think what it might more or less be is we'll see the ideas for both, and one will definitely be your main story is the Shadowlands, and then the second thing is the Dragon Isles. Like it might be like Dragon Isles might be the extra continent you unlock at, say, whatever the new cap is, which again then becomes like your Mechagon maybe for endgame stuff. So you'll have your world quests in the Shadowlands, and you'll have your rep grinds for the faction in there, but then you'll also have the option to go to the Dragon Isles, which could be the Mechagon for endgame at the 9.0 type level, to give you something else to do if you choose to go do it. Because I can see that happening, giving us Rathion as the main point there.
Yeah.
As the base and everything else, trying to rebuild the Black Dragon flight. against void dragons and everything else. That'll be something else we'll talk about in a minute. I don't know. It's interesting. The Shadowlands leak is the only one also that says that the level squish is postponed. Whereas every other leak turns around and goes that the level squish is coming.
Yeah.
So it's interesting.
And I realized Shadowlands sounds very familiar, and that's because Anarchy Online had a Shadowlands expansion. That was an MMO I played years and years ago.
I mean, Shadowlands isn't an unfamiliar concept at many games. Like there's even particular games just called Shadowlands and everything else. And I mean, they really big. Wow, I'm good at English. Maybe I should take Shakespeare. They really wrote the Shadowlands into being a thing when they came out with Chronicle Volume 1 way back when, and like put it there as a plane. So like we've got the Elemental Plane, then the Twisting Nether, the Azeroth, you know, that universe, and then like the Shadowlands as well. But like this is apparently bringing lots of stuff back. Hell yeah. Most of the big heroes that we've seen die. So there's Uther, Vol'jin, Varian, Saurfang, Cairn, which apparently means that Saurfang's going to die at some point in this expansion. No idea. But apparently they hint that Hakar is the guy that's in charge of Born Samdi and everything else. So they'll bring back Hakar as well in some sort of form, which could be interesting. Hakar is one of those things that they've hinted at all the way back at when they re-released Zulaman and Zul'Farrak. Not Zul'Farrak. Oh my goodness. Zul'Gurub and Zulaman back in Cataclysm. Because if you go and watch the trailer for that patch again, you see that Zul the Prophet throws the dust into the fire, and you see that they're actually working to bring back Hakar anyway. So, and then obviously at the end of Zul'Gurub, you've got that they're trying to imbue themselves with the power of Hakar, and that he's actually still there in the plane between existences. So bringing back Hakar could be a thing, especially when he's going to be a phase all on his own in Classic as well. So those people that do play Classic will be hyped back on Hakar as well. There's a lot to it. I'd suggest having a read of it another time. If you just Google 9.0 Shadowlands, you can find a whole thing over on Icy Veins about all the leaks that they've corresponded together. It's an interesting read if you're interested to see what happens. Sometimes these leaks are true when it comes to expansion stuff. I believe Warlords was leaked and nobody believed it because everybody thought time travel to go and see all those orcs on Draenor was not going to be a thing, and Legion was definitely leaked. People kind of believe that because it was about time for the Burning Crusade to come back.
And I am this year. One reason I'm a little bit more likely to believe that leaks would be more real. We had a lot of people let go, and I could see some people disgruntled, having access to data. So I mean, I could really see this, and maybe even people that are still working, there's something going on where people don't have the tight control over stuff. So I could definitely see stuff sneaking out with what we had this year.
Yeah, I could see that. It'd be a bit shitty for people to just release stuff like this, as obviously.
Oh, it would be.
But again, you know, I feel a duty of care to talk about it and everything else, since we like talking about Warcraft stuff. So just gotta be careful, really.
Yeah.
Just take everything you see before BlizzCon with a pinch of salt, and until you see what BlizzCon tells you, then believe that until they turn around and go, well, we had to remove this because we couldn't fit it in with time constraints and everything else. They've done that before.
Avashir scrapped a lot of Avashir, and I'm a little sea salty about that.
What do they? Oh, you mean like the Abyssal Maw raid and everything else?
Yeah,
there's always something that has been cut from an expansion. Wrath of the Lich King was a big part of that. So the entirety of Azul Narub was removed. There was a point where, if you actually look at the back of the box for Wrath of the Lich King, you can see that they advertise a big part of that as being Siege like planes, flying siege weapons. That was entirely scrapped. So there was, and it all just becomes siege weaponry, and that was the big thing about Wrath, because you had Winter Grasp, you had Trial of the Crusader, where you were in mounted combat. You had, oh goodness, the first boss in Alduar, the Flame Leviathan, that was mounted things. You had the other PvP thing, the Strand of the Ancients, that was entirely that combat as well. They really ramped it up in that. Cataclysm was Path of the Titans. That was the big thing about Cataclysm, that got removed, and everything else. There was also the Dance Studio. I think that was Wrath or pre-Wrath.
Yeah, and I will never let Blizzard forget that.
I don't know what was rumoured about Mists. I think they really dialed that back in like trying to overcompensate what they wanted. But there's at least something per expansion that was pulled back on, unfortunately. But yes, one of the big topics I want to talk about today, one of the big things that I hit this week in Warcraft was getting the Heart of Azeroth to level 60. And with it comes the next step in the Crucible of Flame chain. Now, as I mentioned earlier on in the episode, I did a whole Twitter post on this about various bits and pieces. So, the quest line basically begins with you going to... You go to the Heart of Azeroth, and Kalik says he's been reaching out to the aspects. You know, obviously Ysera's gone, but we've got the daughter of Ysera that has come to the Heart Chamber. You know, we've talked to Ebonhorn. Ebonhorn's now here, so we've got a black Dragonflight representative. We've got a green Dragonflight representative. Now, it's worth pointing out before we go any further is that one of Rathian's agents is actually at that when you go and do the quest with Ebonhorn. I believe there was one in the Emerald Dreamway, but I'm not 100% sure. So Rathian is aware of what we're doing, especially with the fact that there was one of his agents in Najdatar as well. So this basically, we get this quest to go and find out what's going on with Alexstrasza, because Kalik hasn't heard from her. And turns out that we get sent to the Twilight Highlands to go to the Vermilion Redoubt, and they're under fire from what you first think are Twilight dragons, but are actually called Void-touched dragons. It's really interesting because this is the next step in Twilight. Now, we've talked about how you find Twilight scales in one of the island expeditions, and you get told that the Twilights have a new leader, and a lot of these have been found because the Trogs have dug ever deeper through Grim Batol. So, assumably that these are all the new Twilights that have been, because they're deeper and closer to the Earth, they've been even more corrupted by Old God and Old God Spawn, and that's why they're Void-touched. So, we fight them all off, we get to Alexstrasza, we free some red dragons that are being corrupted into Twilights, quite similar to the way that Deathwing announced that he had corrupted a lot of the spawn when they took over Wyrmrest Temple and had access to the Dragonflight shrines and everything else, and went and corrupted the eggs and turned them into Twilights. Similarly, they've been corrupting these red dragons into Void-touched dragons as well, as how that's going as well, which is interesting. Because it then shows that Twilights can be mixed in any such way. They can take adult and young. So, what's next is that we come across the leader of these Void-touched dragons called Vexiona. And she actually has a unique Void Dragon model. Like, it's completely unique. Even though it's really funny, because when she does her breath attack, it looks like her jaw just unhinges. Like, it's just like, bleh. So it's definitely funny to look at and everything else. But it's, there was a big thing that they talked about, and I have to try and find my... I should have actually had this open beforehand. but goodness gracious me. Blah 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 blah. Scrolling through my Twitter feed.
I'm just picturing now a broken animatronic with the mouth.
That's it. Oh goodness gracious me. But there was well, I can't find it at this point. There's too much to do. Nope. How dare my tweets actually get a lot of feedback and everything else? How dare I not find these?
Oh, I know. You're a popular person.
Apparently so. How dare it? That's the annoying thing.
I use TweetDeck, so I see every single thing that comes through.
I tweet too much, I think. That's the problem. There we go. I found it. So, yeah. Vexiona, what I've tweeted is Vexiona has a unique dragon model, which is cool. Upon defeating her, not kill, it's very important that we don't kill her. She yells, "Your pathetic dragonflights will fall. If you will not serve the master, then I will find the one who will." So we already know that we've got a blue dragonflight representative, a green dragonflight representative, and a black dragonflight representative. This story then leads into the fact that Alexstrasza joins in the Heart Chamber, showing that the only one that we haven't talked to yet is Nosdormu. As far as I'm aware, Nosdormu is not part of this chain entirely, which means that, as I mentioned, and it goes back to everything I've talked about regarding the Infinite Dragonflight, we're going to probably see the big push for Morozond and the Infinite Dragonflight really coming into the fold soon. So, as I've tweeted, one assumes that this is hinting even more towards the greater corruption of the Bronze Flight, and we take one more step into ever closer to Morozond, the Infinites in the true timeline, which they talk about in End Time. It is a fun, if short, scenario. Alexstrasza joins us in the Heart Chamber, so we've got 4 out of 5 of the major Dragonflights, imbuing the Heart of Azeroth, and assumably one step closer to making the new Dragon/Demon Soul. The next step in any of that storyline is rank 4 for Crucible of Flame, which doesn't unlock until you get to level 70. So as I mentioned, it's a couple of weeks away. If I'm lucky, I'll hit 61 before the reset on Wednesday in the EU. And then I'll probably... it's starting to... The grind is slowly scaling upwards. I'm probably looking at an Azerite level per week without spamming... Island expeditions into the floor. So, I mean, you're looking at 85,000 Azerite power a week.
Ooh, wow.
Yeah.
You're a beast.
Well, I mean, there are people already at 65, so I wouldn't quite say I'm a beast. But it's definitely an interesting quest line, and it's definitely worth savouring once you get to 65, at least. So, look forward to that. I'm quite sure I'll probably try and stream 70. I don't think I streamed 65 because I was busy. It was like early morning or something. I was in between doing chores and bits and pieces, so I couldn't do it. But if it's true, I'm probably about 8-9 weeks away from getting level 70 on the Heart, which probably feels about right with where Blizzard want us to get to it.
Yeah, because by then the storyline will be moving us toward what, because I mean, if you think about 8 to 9 weeks, that's getting pretty close to BlizzCon.
8 to 9 weeks, BlizzCon, probably 8.2.5 we'll have by then. I fully expect once 8.3 and a new raid comes out, they'll increase the Heart of Azeroth and give us new essences to go and get as a kind of like power increase. Because they'll have to, because otherwise people will just use the same stuff they have now. So there has to be a power boost somewhere.
And one thing that I'm trying to figure out, because I noticed my alts are getting at Azerite levels pretty fast. What's the catch-up mechanic in this expansion? Like,
so the amount of Azerite power you need decreases per week.
Okay.
So it's kind of like it drops it while keeping it at the same level of percentage. You're generally looking roughly, it drops about 20,000 Azeroth power per level needed per week. Roughly is the map I've managed to work it out to.
Because like some of these alts I barely play, they're already up to like 30,
So
40, and I'm
when 8.2 came out, if you get to Nashtar and you do the Magni quest, it automatically levels your heart up to level 35.
okay.
And then I think everything is like been reduced all the way up to 50 to like needing 1,000 per level, and then once you hit 50 upwards, then you start hitting that normal scale. But
So it's a lot.
Go on, no, go ahead.
It's a lot more seamless than it was in Legion, because in Legion you had to buy things here.
Up until the last raid, yeah, where it just unlocked week on week, which is better. You're not imbuing your own stuff and then waiting for it to be arriving in a week in case you missed it or anything else. But it definitely feels better not having to have exponentially scaling stuff. But my only problem with it is that it should always exponentially drop. Like, it shouldn't just tail off and be like I don't mind having a hard cap on the heart, you know? Level 70 is fine as a hard cap, but my only problem is that the Azerite knowledge, the artifact knowledge, should keep going into effect week on week. So those people that don't want to grind out 100,000 Azerite power in a week can still get to level 70 eventually without, you know, so Azerite knowledge, because they'll just bring it down eventually anyway. There's nothing to say that they can't just turn around and just have it scaling infinitely.
Yeah, kind of like what they did with that final talent on the artifact, where you just could add you could add things.
Kind of. But what I'm saying is that where in Legion artifact knowledge scaled how much artifact power you gained, that should have scaled exponentially, just like the levels scaled exponentially.
Okay. Yes.
So what I'm saying is that even with a hard cap on there, eventually, you know, weeks and weeks down the line, when we get to BlizzCon and 8.3 round the corner, you'll only need 1,000 artifact power to get from like 60 to 61. You know, it should always bring it down so that the casual player or somebody on an alt can just level up their heart. You know, my biggest complaint about this patch is that with the way the essence system works, it's completely unfriendly. Again, it rolls back to the fact of I'd really like everything to be account bound and like friendly across all the alts, so like everything's useful across many different things. Like, even if I have to go out and grind the materials to buy it, if I unlock it on a character, then I should be able to just unlock it on the other one. You know? For example,
yeah.
I don't want... Not everybody wants to run a mythic plus 10 on a character to get their essences for the thing. Nobody wants to run the raids to get the essences. Nobody wants to do 1,000 rating plus and cap conquest every week to get a PvP essence and stuff like that. You know, not everybody's going to do those tools in order to unlock the next thing. So stuff like that. I like jumping on my alts from time to time, you know, but my monk is only ever going to have Crucible of Flame 1 and no miners unless I put the time in on it. I really can't be bothered with my time. I'd much rather spend it getting my main finished off, you know?
Yeah.
And to get my main finished off, and if I want to get to level 70 on the heart, I've got to keep grinding that Azerite. So, quite a certain time, and by the time I've done Mechagon, Nashtar, and done my world tour for Azerite, I'm like, I really don't want to play Warcraft anymore today.
Yeah, I'm all done, yeah. Please, no more Mist. I don't want any more.
That's it. Finished Mechagon hard mode again for the second time this week. We got another mount for the team. And we were this close to getting the Immortal done as well on it. We got to King Mechagon without any deaths, and then we screwed up the hard mode on King Mechagon in like phase 2, and then we just wiped for like half an hour. So
I had a Twitch chat person mention that in Mechagon, you know that annoying robot that tries to take you down. Like you're flying over certain areas, and like he.
Oh, the
gives you
HK8 Aerial Annihilation Unit, yeah.
Yeah. So they said that if you have that mount from the Operation Mechagon, that mount does not get that stack.
So it's not just that mount, it's also if you get to Exalted and you dump the 400 grand gold, it works on that mount as well, that it doesn't target you. But yes, that is completely true.
So I don't have to finish hard mode, I just gotta get the Exalted. And
If you've got 400,000 gold you want to dump on a flying mount, yes.
No, nope. Yeah, okay, yeah, 400. I thought you said 400 gold. No, 400,000.
No, 400,000 gold.
Yeah, no, unless I buy tokens, and I'm not buying that many tokens.
Oh, it's fun. Okay, Mr. Frazley, what are you aiming to do in Warcraft in the next week before we stand up and talk together?
That's a good question. I'm probably aiming to do some more irons, and it kind of maybe we'll work on reps here and there. So take it a little bit easier because I did that big push for Pathfinder, and that now they've got the wolf for the Alliance. Just kind of enjoy things. I feel like that now I can take things easier, go after achievements, stuff like that. So nothing groundbreaking, but just keep doing what I've been doing. I find I enjoy WordPress more now that I can fly. Now that I don't have to think about which flight master I'm going to. I can just, and I don't have to worry about like how do I traverse there. I can just go directly to it. So I'm going to also do emissaries and stuff like that, and work on the AP because I want to try to get my neck up on Frazley, just because I want to see some of these storylines.
I'd say it's definitely worth it, but don't bust yourself. As we said, like artifact knowledge is gonna bring down what you require.
Yeah.
Is it a new challenge Iron Gnome thing that you got to work on, or have you got something sat in the bank ready to keep going with?
In the bank, because once 8.2 came out, the iron basically went away. So this one is still my 5th iron, and I forget what class it is. Oh, it's my Taran paladin named Moonster. So I'm gonna see how far Moonster goes, and if Moonster becomes a Deathster.
Can you do allied races on there and cheat and start at level 20?
I think so. I have to check the rules on Wild Challenges, but I believe irons can. They just have specific things on what they require. So I'm going to check the rule book.
Yeah, because it might be worth. It might be a little bit of fun, at least starting at level 20. Now that you keep getting to level 20 and just like dying out a little bit. But
yeah.
It might be worth doing that, especially if you actually manage to pull through with one and find one that you like, and you can start working towards that heritage armor.
Absolutely. Oh, imagine getting that. Now some of those heritage armor quests. Oh, those would be painful on iron. Like,
well, no, because surely once you get to 120, you can like feed them some benthic gear just to get them started, and then just go get your thing done.
No, because once I get to 120, I want to hold it until the next expansion, because you can take a character after 120. So I'm thinking long term.
So here's what I suggest. Okay?
Yes.
Get to 120, give them the benthic gear, but keep all your iron gear in the bank. Get your benthic gear, go do your heritage armor, and then once that's unlocked, get rid of all the benthic gear, put on your normal gear, transmog it into your heritage, and then just use that.
Oh, Lita, I can hear Lita listening to this right now, and Lita's like, "No, Frazley, you can't." They are smart. They are. They'll flank me. I go by the rules.
My argument is that you're not leveling with it once you've hit max level. So as long as you've got the gear on while you're leveling, that's my argument. Anyway,
anybody who's the WoW challenges, respond to this.
We'll have to get him on. We'll have to get him on at some point and have a chat.
Absolutely.
I have been seeing a lot of WoW challenges stuff come up a little bit, and it might be something that I do maybe at some point. It's really difficult because it's not something I really want to do, because I've got all the classes on the Alliance side and I'd have to do it with my Horde side, and at which point it's just like I'd have to do it with the allied races. Or
Hey,
a goblin.
hey.
I suppose I could do a goblin.
Yeah. Time is money, friend.
Time is money, friend.
But
Interesting.
if you aren't doing WoW challenges and stuff like that this next week, what are you looking to do this next week?
Hopefully kill heroic Queen Ashara. By the time we talk next week, I'm hoping we'll have heroic Queen Ashara down. I'm hoping
Yes.
to have rank 3 Vision of Perfection, if not rank 4. Because doing hard mode, if you get hard mode King Mechagon down, you actually get 2 of the 4 that you need for rank 3. So it only takes you 2 weeks if you do hard mode Mechagon. And just keep playing through with the Heart of Azeroth. I don't think I'm going to hit any big story marks next week. So, but in saying that, we might have a guest next week. So, no spoilers. I'm going to keep you on Tenderhook's chat and everyone that's listening in and everything else. We might have another guest next week to come and join us. So, it might be worth
the guest will be. So we will have a lot of fun with them.
Why would you swear? That was not a very nice thing to say. God damn it, Frazley. Jesus.
I'm getting corrupted by the old gods.
You've still got your technical hat on, haven't you? So.
Yep. No, I told you, he's a good person. Sorry.
Anyway, for those who don't know where they can find you on the internet, Mr. Frazley, where can they find you, please?
They can find me at Frazley.com, where you can see every podcast like this one. Or if you want to see my longest running podcast, go to gnomepodcast.com.
Brilliant stuff. You can find me on Twitter at Titans Creed. It's that little name just above my head if you're looking at it on YouTube, where you can find this in its video form at youtube.com/Project Phoenix Productions. You can find us live on Twitch every Sunday night at 12:30 p.m. UK. That's 1:30 a.m. in the European Union. It's 7:30 on Pacific, I want to say. Eastern,
yes.
Eastern.
I think for a second.
And I believe that's time differences. There's 4 hours earlier on the western coast. I don't know, which means it's like
3
hours. So 4:30 in the afternoon on Pacific time. There we go. Some math for you as well as time zones, because I'm good like that to you people.
We love you.
We love you. Yeah, but you can find me otherwise. If you want to catch me any other time, you can find me on Twitch about 5 days a week at twitch.tv/Project Phoenix Productions, where we air this show live every Sunday night. Come and join us.
It's fun. And we bring cookies.
He brings cookies. I eat
Yes.
cookies. But yes, thank you very much for watching and or listening, ladies and gentlemen, whatever your tastes of listening to us are. Thank you very much. And as always, from myself and Frazley, thank you very much once again. And as Frazley always likes to say,
be awesome.
indeed, be awesome. Catch you next time, ladies and gentlemen. Take care.